Hello everyone, welcome to the course on question generation in EdTech using natural language processing. Here EdTech stands for education technology. If you pick up any middle school textbook, let's say English, science or social, at the end of every chapter you will see questions like multiple choice questions, true or false, fill in the blanks and match the following. In this course, we will see how we can take any chapter or content and generate these questions, MCQs, true or false, etc. automatically using natural language processing. I am Ramsri Gautam Gola, the instructor for this course. I have been a lead data scientist with 8+ years experience across Silicon Valley, Singapore and India. Most recently, I've been a co-founder and CTO of an AI-assisted assessment startup. I've spent the last 2 years on question generation using natural language processing in EdTech. Who is this course for? This is an intermediate level course, so some familiarity with Python and natural language processing is expected. Most of the focus will be on practical use cases of NLP. A high-level intuition on all the concepts will be introduced, but I need to let you know that there won't be any heavy discussions on the underlying mathematics and theory of the algorithms. If you're ready, let's get started. We will go over the course outline in this lecture. So first of all, Google Colab Notebooks will be the development environment for all of our projects. And coming to the course outline, so first we'll see how we can generate distractors or wrong choices for the MCQ options. Then we'll see how we can generate true or false questions using some pre-trained models. And then we will move on to generating MCQs from any content by training a new model altogether. Then we will see how we can generate fill in the blanks and match the followings like the ones that you see in English worksheet. Then we will also see how we can paraphrase any question by training a new transformer model. And later we'll discuss and go over any topics as necessary like production deployment of these models, etc. So this is the high level course overview. Now we'll just take a deep dive into each of these topics. So first we'll see how we can generate distractors or wrong choices for MCQ options. Let's say you already created this question, which is the world's longest river, and you have Nile as the answer that you already know. How can you generate distractors or the wrong options A, C, D that are shown here? So we'll go over several methods to generate these distractors. Those methods are word vector algorithms, then ConceptNet, and also using WordNet. So we'll go over a Google Colab notebook where we use these 3 different kind of algorithms to generate distractors. Moving further on, we'll see how we can generate true or false questions using some pre-trained models. So if you let's say you take this sentence, the Nile River begins near the equator in Africa and flows north to the Atlantic Ocean. So the original sentence has Mediterranean Sea at the end. We'll see how we can use sentence parsing techniques to split the sentence at the ending noun phrase or verb phrase. And then we'll see how we can use a GPT-2 model for sentence completion and come up with alternative noun phrases or verb phrases that fit in with the sentence. Now you can use this sentence as false sentence and give a true or false question like this. Moving on, we'll actually see how we can generate this question and answer from any content. So we'll first extract keywords from the content, then we'll pick a keyword and give the paragraph and see how we can train and use a T5 transformer model to generate the question as well as answer is from the keyword. Then we'll see how we can pick some keywords and remove them and give as fill in the blanks. Again, we'll see how we can pick top nouns and use WordNet to give match the following like the one that you see here. Then we'll go on to see how you can paraphrase any question. So when it comes to question generation, if you add more variety like rephrasing the question in a different way, like replacing profession with career, job or occupation. So we'll use a T5 transformer model to completely paraphrase the question into something else with the same meaning, of course, by training the transformer model on Quora question pairs dataset. Then we'll move on to extra topics where as necessary we will discuss production deployment of models, any additional theory or some more projects or project ideas. Welcome to the course. Hope you will have a great time here. Hello everyone, welcome back to the course. Today we will see how we can generate distractors or wrong choices for MCQ options. As you have seen in the introduction section, if you have any content, from the content, let's say a question is created by someone with the right answer. In this section, we'll see how we can use the right answer and generate distractors, that is the wrong choices. So we will look at three different kind of algorithms: WordNet, ConceptNet and word vectors. These three different kind of algorithms would be used to generate distractors. First, an important note, the link to all the code and datasets is provided in the introduction section. Please refer to that throughout this course. Let's understand what distractors are. Distractors are the wrong answers in a multiple choice question. Few points to keep in mind when designing distractors are: distractors shouldn't be too similar or too different. In this example, let's say cricket is the correct answer. Then ideal distractors are other games like golf, football and ultimate frisbee. So distractors should be homogeneous in content. You cannot give pink, blue, watch, green and make it obvious that watch might be the answer. And distractors should be mutually exclusive. So don't include any synonyms of the same word in the distractors. So we will first see how we can use WordNet to create these distractors. But first and foremost, let us understand what is WordNet. So WordNet is a large lexical database in English, and similar to Thesaurus, where you have words and its synonyms, etc. WordNet captures much more broader relationships between words, and it's completely free and publicly available for download. We can use it as a Python package within NLTK. And WordNet labels the semantic relationships among words. So beyond just synonyms, you have hypernyms, hyponyms, meronyms and things like that, where the relationships between words is captured. WordNet also captures different senses of a word. So what do I mean by sense? Let's say the word mouse, it could mean an animal or a computer mouse depending on the context it is used in. So each different usage of mouse is called a sense. So one sense is the animal, and the second sense is actually computer peripheral. So how exactly can we use WordNet to generate these distractors? So I've already mentioned that WordNet captures relationships between words. And similarly, in WordNet, we have something called as hypernym and hyponym, and all the words are tagged according to that. So to understand, a hyponym is in a type of relationship with its hypernym. So to simplify it even further, a hypernym is almost like an umbrella term or blanket term. Example, color is the hypernym of purple. Color is the hypernym of red or blue or green in our example. So if you pick up any word like red, the hypernym to it is the blanket term or umbrella term. So red falls under color. So if you ask what is the hypernym of red, you will say color is the hypernym of red. Similarly, all the different colors like purple, red, blue, green are hyponyms of color. So in this example, as I mentioned, all these colors, red, blue, green, are type of color. So all the hyponyms have type of relationship with its hypernym. So even in this example, crimson, violet, lavender are type of purple. So you can say that for violet, purple is the hypernym. But for purple, crimson, violet, lavender, all of these are hypernyms. Hyponyms. So when we look at this structure, we can see one way to extract distractors is actually extract co-hyponyms. So if violet is the answer, then we can generate distractors by collecting its co-hyponyms, lavender and crimson. And let's say if blue is the answer, we can collect distractors, the wrong multiple choice answers, by collecting the co-hyponyms of blue, which are red, purple and green. And in this diagram, how do we find co-hyponyms? Given any word, we can go to its hypernym, that is color, and collect all of its hyponyms. So purple, blue, green. We will see in a bit how we can do the same in code using NLTK and Python. Thanks for watching. Let's move on to the next section. Welcome back to the coding section. In the folder provided, you will see the Google Colab notebook that is titled as Generate Distractors for MCQ Options. So if you have never used Google Colab, that's totally fine. I'll have a very short overview of Google Colab and we'll run through it. First, double click on the notebook and open with Colab. If you have never done this, try to create your first Colab notebook and this will be automatically, the app of Google Colab will be automatically added. So Google Colab is a Jupyter notebook in the cloud. So to run this notebook, all you can do is click on connect. So Google will attach a CPU or GPU instance when you click on connect. You can also connect your Google Drive to load the data or store the model that you trained, etc. on there. Now that we are connected, we'll quickly go through the menu bar. So here in the runtime, you can change your runtime from your CPU instance to either GPU or TPU instance as well. And you can go to edit and clear all outputs to clear any console log output. And whenever you want to disconnect any session, you can click on manage sessions and terminate them here. Once you are connected, these are like Jupyter cells that you can run by just pressing shift enter. So here, let's say we have some sample text and someone read the text and created this question and the correct answer is Nile. Of course, we will see in the future sections how we can generate this question and answer automatically using NLP algorithms. But for now, let's assume that someone has generated this question and answer. Our goal is how can we take this correct answer and generate distractors from it. So distractors here means, let's say you give Nile to the distractor generation algorithm and it will give out Mississippi, Amazon, Yangtze as other choices. Now let's get started with our section of using WordNet to generate distractors. You can look at the documentation of WordNet by going to this link. First, we will install NLTK. So NLTK is a Python library that is used for natural language processing tasks, and it is one of the popular libraries out there, including Spacy, TextBlob, etc. Now once we are done with that, we'll go into the second section, where we'll import NLTK and download WordNet, and we'll also import WordNet as WN. Let's start with the word Nile. I'll explain what synsets are, but let's give this word Nile to our WordNet algorithm and call the synsets function, and we'll iterate through synsets and see what each synset is and what's the definition for it. Here I am just lowercasing Nile and passing it to the synsets function of WordNet, and we are printing out all the synset. So the first synset, Nile.n.01, we print the synset and we print the synset definition. So here n stands for noun and 01 stands for first sense. We'll explain what that sense is in a bit. Now you have the definition of the word Nile, which is the world's longest river, flows northward through Eastern Africa, etc. Now let's move on to the next section. In this section, we will give the word bat and do the same thing again, where we extract all the synsets. Now, interestingly, we will see quite a lot of synsets here. Unlike Nile, bat has many different meanings depending on the context it is used in. So one of the context could be referring to bat, the mammal that flies in the night, and second meaning could be a baseball bat, and another thing could be a cricket bat. So these are all nouns. Now depending on the context, you can also have different meanings for bat, where you can also interpret it as verb, which means to hit. So all these are different senses of the word bat. By senses I mean the same word that could mean differently according to the context. So all these are different senses of the word bat. Unlike Nile that you have seen previously, which has only one sense, bat has multiple senses depending on the context it is used in. Now moving on to the next section, let's say you encounter this multiple choice question, which of these is a nocturnal animal that flies? And you want to extract distractors for bat. So the first thing is, at least we know that bat is a noun here. So we can extract only the noun senses, unlike previously where we also have verb senses. Here we can extract only noun senses of the word bat. But still our problem is not solved, because among these 5 senses we need to find the exact sense that we want to use in this context, because only then we can find out distractors for that sense. So this problem of identifying the exact sense among all the possible senses of a given word, it is called word sense disambiguation. So we will look into word sense disambiguation at a later stage in the course, but for this tutorial we are going to assume a given sense for a word, and then we are going to extract distractors for that sense. As you have seen in the previous lecture, I explained what a hypernym and what a hyponym is. So let's pick a word like lion. We can get all the synsets of the word lion. Then let's get the first synset. Perhaps that could be the best meaning or the most generic meaning that we are looking for the lion. And we get all the hypernyms of lion. So hypernym means the embracing category or the top level category of lion. Then once we get the hypernym, so in our previous example that we have seen in the lecture, if we have red here, the hypernym could be color, and you get the hypernym color and you extract all the hypernyms, which could be green, blue, purple, etc. Similarly, we have lion here. Let's run this cell. So lion, the hypernym of lion is big cat, and once you go to the hypernym and you print out all the hypernyms of it, then so you go from lion to its hypernym big cat, and from big cat you print all the hypernyms of it, which are cheetah, jaguar, leopard, saber-toothed tiger, snow leopard, etc. Also you see that lion is also part of that hyponym. Moving on to the next section, I created an easy to use function, get distractors wordnet. We'll see how we can use this. Let's say we have our original word lion, then we get all the synsets of that word lion, And here I am picking only the first synset, that is the 0th index, and I'm passing that synset as well as the word lion to this function. And in this function what we are going to do is get all the hypernyms of that synset and just pick the first hypernym and go through all those hyponyms of that hypernym and extract all the details that we want. This is just bookkeeping where I'm just replacing underscores with space and capitalizing things, so nothing complex here. Just I'm extracting all the hyponyms and filtering through them. Let's see how the output looks like. So I've also tried different words like bat and green, etc. So if you see the output, for lion I get distractors like cheetah, jaguar, leopard, liger, and for bat I get distractors like aardvark, buck, bull, or going further we have like pangolin. So all of these are like nocturnal animals, some of them. So you can flying lemur, you can use them as distractors for bat. And again for green I'm getting distractors like blonde, blue, brown, olive, orange, etc. So what I'm doing is, again, given a word, I go to its hypernym, which is color, and I go to colors hyponyms, which are blue, brown, olive, and all these things, etc. So I extract co-hyponyms for the word. So co-hyponyms for the word lion are cheetah, jaguar, leopard. Co-hyponyms for the word green are blue, brown, olive. These could be used as distractors or wrong choices for our multiple choice questions. Going on to the next section. So let's take the word cricket and let's print all its synsets. So if you look at the word cricket, cricket has two different synsets. One is the insect cricket and the second synset is the game cricket played with bat and ball. Now we will see how we can extract distractors by using two different synsets. So if you see, I am extracting the first synset, which is cricket as an insect, and I am getting distractors by passing that synset and the word. I calculate the distractors and print them out. If you see the first word cricket, if I extract distractors, since it is an insect, I am getting grasshopper. And for the second word, I am getting synsets and I am using the the second one, which is the first index, which is the game cricket. And if I get distractors using the word game, the synset game, then I get things like field hockey, football, polo, ultimate frisbee that I can use as distractors. So given a word like cricket, we can extract all the possible senses of the same word. Here we have two senses, one is insect and one is the game. And for each of the sense, we get different distractor, because depending on the context, it could mean completely different thing, where one could mean insect and one could mean game. So this is how we can extract distractors using WordNet. And how do we automatically identify the sense? Because right now we are giving the exact sense and asking for distractors. But from the question or sentence itself, can we identify the sense? Can we narrow down to the exact sense and automatically extract distractors even not going through the route of giving the exact sense. We will see in the future lessons how we can use word sense disambiguation algorithms and achieve this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next section. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the section on generating distractors using ConceptNet. First, we'll start with an introduction to ConceptNet. So ConceptNet is a free multilingual knowledge graph. So it includes knowledge from crowdsourced resources and expert created resources. So both WordNet and ConceptNet are human tagged and curated. ConceptNet is also used to create word embeddings just like Glove, Word2Vec, Fast Text, etc. We'll also look into word embeddings after this section. Similar to WordNet, ConceptNet labels the semantic relationships among words, but the main thing is that these are more detailed than WordNet. For example, between words you have all the relationships like is a, part of, made of, similar to. All these kind of relationships are captured among words. So coming to generating distractors using ConceptNet, just like in WordNet where we had hypernym and homonyms and extracting co-hyponyms as distractors, we'll use similar structure here in ConceptNet as well, where if you query ConceptNet with a given word, let's say California, you have many relationships that you extract. How the word California is connected to several other words in the graph. You extract all the words that California shares is part of relationship with. So that could be United States. And this is similar to going to the hypernym, and then again once you go to the word United States, you try to see what are all the words that share is part of relationship with the United States. So something like hyponyms, and then you extract all the co-hyponyms which are just like California. What are the other words that share is part of relationship with the parent of California's word? And so you get words like Arizona, Texas, Nevada, which are other states. You can use these as distractors. We will see what we have just discussed in action. Go to Google and type conceptnet.io. You'll reach this web page. After that, type a word like California and click on search. So as I mentioned, ConceptNet is a knowledge graph where words are connected with other words. Similarly, once you type California, you get all the connected things like parts of California, synonyms, things that are located at California, terms within the context of California. So what's of importance for us is part of relationship. So California is part of, let's say, the United States. So we use the part of relationship to extract the hypernym, which is United States in this case. So we go there. Again, for the word United States, we go to all the words that share part of relationship with United States, which are these things that we can see here. So Florida, New England, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona. So all these words share part of relationship with the United States. You can consider these as co-hyponyms for the word California. Another important detail is that once we type California and we get California is part of these things, you can click on this thing. So here when we query the API, we get all these things. But we are interested in only those words where the edge starts with California and ends with something else. So only those edges that start with California at the start and end with something else are those of interest to us, because when we extract part of relationship, we get all the words that are even part of California itself. So in this edge, the start is Santa Ana and the end is California, which says that Santa Ana is part of California. But we are interested in only those edges where California is part of something. So California is at the start of the edge. So we will see how we implement this in code, how we query the API to get all the hypernyms of California that share part of relationship with California. Then again we'll see how we can go to one of the hypernym and extract all the hyponyms of that. So essentially we will see how we can get co-hyponyms or distractors of California using code in the next section. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to the coding section. In this section we will see how we can use ConceptNet to generate distractors. You can only expand the sections that you are working on currently and keep it organized. Let's get started. So as mentioned, this is the URL for ConceptNet, and assume that you have a question like this where Arnold served as a governor to which state, and the correct answer is California, and now you're trying to generate distractors for this question. So let's get started with some imports right here. And what we are going to do is to use ConceptNet API. So you can look at the ConceptNet API documentation here. And here we will see how we can call this API and extract what we are looking for. So first thing is, we have our word California and we just lowercase it, and if it's a multi-word like New York or something like that, then we replace the spaces with an underscore before we do the query. So this is the query URL for ConceptNet. Using the requests library of Python, we do a query to this URL and get back the output. So let's look at the output. Here we extracted only those words where the edge starts with California and extracted those words that have California is part of that word. So here if we just loop through the edges that we got above and print the end term where California is the start and the end is the word where California is part of, you'll get two words: California is part of Southwest and California is part of United States. Now you might have the question of how does this API work? So let's look at the individual parts of the API. Assuming that we have the word California, we are going to use request library to call this API with this query. And so this is the standard URL for query, and in ConceptNet everything is a node, every word is a node, and so we are querying with our node where C stands for ConceptNet and EN stands for English. Remember that I said that ConceptNet is multilingual, so here we are giving English. Then we have our word California here, and this stands for noun. So all we are doing here is querying the API of ConceptNet with our word California, which is an English word and it is a noun. So if you look at the output has several fields, and you get all the details of how that particular word California is connected to every other word in every possible way. This is too huge for us. So what we are going to do is narrow down our search and extract only those nodes that share a part of relationship with California. Remember, ConceptNet has many relationships like has a, made of, is a, is used for, and one of them is part of. So we are going to extract only those words that share part of relationship with California. So we are going to get all these words. But remember, we even get words where something is part of California. But our goal is the other way. California should be part of something. So going further, we add a little bit more to the API where we query with our node California and extract those relationships that have part of, and we also make sure that in all those returned words or nodes, we make sure that California is in the start, not at the end. So California should be in the start, not at the end. Now if we run this query, we would only get two words where California is part of Southwest and California is part of United States. So doing a quick recap, with the first query, we extract all the relationships that the word California shares, but that is too huge for us. Then we narrow down to only those words that California has part of relationship with. But again, there could be many words that could share part of relationship with California, where California could be part of something and something else could be part of California. So we need to narrow down to only those words where California is part of something. So again, we add in our query that we should have start node, that is the edge should start with California because we want California to be part of something. So finally, doing all those, we get our query according to how we want. Now you can print out the edges and see we got only Southwest and United States. Now what we are going to do is go through each of this word and print all its hyponyms. So essentially we are going to go through each of this word, example Southwest, and print all the words that share part of relationship with Southwest, where that word should be part of Southwest. So we get that Southwest has Texas, Arizona, New Mexico and Nevada. So all these words share part of relationship with Southwest, where the edge starts with these words. So Texas is part of Southwest and Arizona is part of Southwest. Similarly, all these words have part of relationship with United States. So here we are limiting to only 10 words so that we don't extract all the things. All we need is only 4 or 5 distractors. So we limit to 10 words. Now what we are going to do is, these are all co-hyponyms of California. So if we just combine this list and this list, we get all the co-hyponyms or distractors for California. So just like previously, I've just combined whatever we just discussed in the above sections into one clean function, and you can call that function and get all the distractors of California in one single list. So this is how you can use ConceptNet to extract distractors. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. In this section, we will see how we can use word vectors to extract distractors. First, an introduction to word vectors. So words are not directly understood by the computer. So we need to convert words into some form of vector representation to be given to the algorithms. So every word that we have in the vocabulary would be converted into a vector or array, let's say of dimension 256 or 128, etc. And one of the main things is each word could be converted into a vector that is independent of other words, but if we can create those vectors such that they capture associations among different kinds of words, then it is much more better for our algorithms. Words that have similar meaning are also close together in the vector space as well. And unlike WordNet and ConceptNet, word vectors are not human curated or human tagged. They are automatically generated from a text corpus. A neural network algorithm is trained on this text corpus, and then we get these word vectors. Word vector algorithms are trained in different ways. So one of the method is you can pick any sentence and you can choose a focus word or word that you want to mask, and you can train an algorithm to predict that word given the rest of the words in the sentence. Or the other way of training word vector algorithms is you can pick one word in a sentence and you can try to predict other words in the sentence just taking one word as the context or focus. Once you train your neural network algorithm on large data where there are millions or sometimes even billions of sentences, then what happens is automatically your neural network algorithm will learn to find representations such that similar words have similar representations in the vector space. And one of the beauty of word vector algorithms is that not only similar vectors are given to similar words, but even the associations between words is preserved. Let's say here, for example, if you take the word vector of king and you subtract the word vector of man and then you add the word vector of woman, you actually get the word vector of queen. In language, we know that what king is to a man, queen is the same to woman. And all these relationships that we have in language, they are actually preserved in word vectors. That is one of the beauty of these algorithms. So if you take the word vector of king and subtract man and add the word vector of woman, you actually get back the word vector that corresponds to queen. And one of the limitations of word vectors is that there's only one sense to a given word. So if you take any word like cricket, then although cricket could mean a game as well as the insect cricket, there is only one word vector when we use for training. Similarly, if you take the word like duck, duck could mean noun or duck could mean to avoid when taken in the context of a verb. But here in word vectors, we only get one representation for a given word. So word vectors do not actually capture context, and so they are unable to isolate different senses of a given word. Moving further, what we would be using in our lecture is actually sense to vec. There are several kinds of word vector algorithms like word to vec, fast text, glove, etc. And Sens2Vec is again one variant of those word vectors. The difference between Sens2Vec and other algorithms like Word2Vec, glove is that in Sens2Vec we capture contextual information, and Sens2Vec is trained on Reddit comments. So when we say we capture contextual information, we actually associate different word vector for the noun duck and for the verb duck. So when we are training, we also collect the parts of speech for every word that we encounter, and we train accordingly. And we also extract things like named entities and noun phrases. So when we are training, we also append all those entity types or parts of speech types along with the verb. You have unique word vector for each word depending on the parts of speech or named entity that it represents. It is better than Word2Vec in that context. And one of the things is that we also capture multi-word phrases, let's say natural language processing or things like that, where there are several words. What we do is we identify these noun phrases and we introduce underscore in place of space. So natural underscore language underscore processing would be taken as one single word when training the algorithm. Also, there are two different variants of Sens2Vec. There's one that is trained in 2015 and then there's one more that is trained on 2019, both on Reddit data. With my experimentation, I found that 2015 trained vectors give us much better results. So we are going to use 2015 trained vectors. And you can try out the Sens2Vec demo by going to this link right here. You can type any word here and click on search, and you will get similar words to what you typed. So these words can be used as distractors for our multiple choice question. Thanks for watching. We'll see the same thing in code in the next lecture. Welcome back. In this section, we will see how we can use Sens2Vec to generate distractors. So first thing is we'll install Sens2Vec from pip. You can go to this link and explore Sens2Vec and read more about it. So once we install Sens2Vec, what we need to do is actually get the Sens2Vec vectors. So here we are going to download the Sens2Vec vectors. So the Sens2Vec vectors are downloaded onto your Google Colab machine. All we need to do is extract the tar file. So we can see that our tar file is extracted and we have a folder called s2v_old. So this is the folder that contains our vectors. So just for sanity, we are going to print out the contents of this folder. As you can see, we have all the Sens2Vec vectors here in this folder. We are going to load the Sens2Vec vectors into an object called s2v. Here, let's go back to a sample MCQ question. Who is the 45th President of the United States? And the correct answer is Donald Trump. And our goal is to find the other distractors, the wrong choices for the MCQ. So again, here we have the word Donald Trump. We are going to just lowercase it. And remember, all multi-words are trained by replacing with an underscore in place of space. So we are going to replace Donald Trump with Donald_Trump. And once you have that word, and you are going to pass through our word through get best sense. As I mentioned, cricket could mean a game or cricket could mean an insect. what we are going to do is get the best sense, that is the most popular sense for that. And once you get the best sense, we are going to give that sense to our S2V algorithm, sense to vec algorithm, and get the most similar words representing that sense. Let's run this. As you see, we identified the word Donald Trump as person. That's the best sense from sense to vec algorithm. And then we pass the best sense to most similar function, and we get back our distractors. So the distractors are Sarah Palin, Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. All these distractors look very good. Now all I am doing is going through this list and just cleaning it out so that we can get just the individual words. As you can see, we got back our list of distractors for the word Donald Trump. And we have Sarah Palin, Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton as our distractors. So just like previously, I packaged everything that we just discussed so far into a small function, and I'm going to give the word natural language processing to our algorithm and get back the distractors. As you can see, the distractors are very good. For natural language processing, I got distractors like machine learning, computer vision, deep learning, neural nets, relational databases, which are very similar to natural language processing, at the same time could serve as distractors because they are not homogeneous, they are not synonyms of each other. Now let's take a word like USA and extract distractors for it. As you can see, for the word USA, we have words that are written like USA.U.S, United States, country, only country. So one thing that we see is that for some of the words, you have similar looking words or misspelled words. Now we cannot take these as distractors. For us, perhaps Canada and Mexico, Europe, UK, these could serve as distractors, but not these. So we need to come up with some way to filter these distractors. I'll give you a short assignment in the next lecture, and you can think about ways to filter these distractors and keep only the ones that are more relevant to us. Thank you, and see you in the next section. Welcome back. In the previous section, we went through the code to generate distractors using sense to vec algorithm. And in this section, I'll give you a small assignment task. Previously, you have seen that when you give the word like USA and ask sense to vec algorithm to give out distractors, you will get all these kinds of return words where for the same word USA you have U.S, USA.US. and all these things, all these variants of USA. Ideally, you want to filter out all of these and keep only things like, let's say, Canada and Mexico or any other things that come beyond that. You want to filter out all the similar looking words to your query word. So our goal for this assignment is to write code or come up with a plan to filter these similar looking distractors. Few of the pointers that I would give is look at something called Levenshtein distance. It captures the difference between two strings. Essentially, Levenshtein distance stands for how many edits do you need to make to a certain word to become another word. So that is called Levenshtein distance. And you can check out this library, string similarity library, from this link, and you can use Levenshtein distance from there. Also see how you can come up with different edits for a given word. So if I just give the word USA, what are all the possible words that are one edit distance away from USA? And you can use algorithms like Levenshtein distance to compute the similarity between two strings or two words and see what is the minimum edit distance to go from one word to other. Think about the approach and see if you can come up with some code to get our task done. We'll see the code and how to achieve this in the next section. Thanks for watching. Welcome back, and in this section we will see how we can filter the distractors. So first let's install strsim, which is string similarity library from pip. And here we have a small little function that generates all the different kind of words that are one edit away from a given word. What I mean by that is, if you give the word cat, it generates all the words possible along with punctuations that are just one edit away. Here edits for the word cat means all the possible words that are deletions or replacements or insertions to any given letter of the word cat. So this is a function that I found online. That's a neat little function that gives back all the edits. I could not exactly trace back the source of it, so I could not provide the source of it. But let's see how we can give the word cat and get all its edits. As you can see, you have all the edits of the word cat, where you add a new letter to the word cat, or you replace a given letter with something else, or you will even have two letter words where you replace one of the word with blank or something else. Now, how are we going to use this? So as you have seen previously, for the word USA we got all these distractors. If the original word is USA, let's get all the words that are one edit distance away from USA using the function that we have just seen. Now, how do we use this one letter edits? Simply we see if any of the distractors are part of this one word edits. If so, we discard them. Here in this line, I am going through every distractor and I am seeing if the distractor is present in the edits. If so, then I remove it. If it isn't, then I add it to the filter distractors edit distance variable. I can run it, and as you can see, we have filtered USA dot and u.s, us dot, all these things, and now we only have very few words. So we filtered these things using our edit distance. Now whatever we did was manual. We found out all the edits for our original word and we removed any distractors that were matching with those edits. Instead of that, we can use Levenshtein distance to do the same. Let's go through that as well. So from our similarity library, we import Levenshtein distance, and as mentioned, the Levenshtein distance between two words is how many edits do we need to make to one word to get it to the second word. So it's just a edit distance metric, and normalized Levenshtein just means we divide the edit distance by the length of the longest word in those two words. So if we run this cell, we see that the Levenshtein distance, the normalized Levenshtein distance between USA and u.s.a is 0.4, whereas USA and u.s is 0.6, whereas USA and America is 1.0, USA and Canada is 1.0 and USA and United States is 0.8. We can keep a threshold and filter those words that have normalized Levenshtein distance below that threshold. Let's keep the threshold as 0.7, and here in one line we are going through our filtered distractors edit distance variable, the list, and we are trying to see if the normalized Levenshtein distance between our original word and each word in this list, if it's greater than the threshold, then only we keep those words. Let's run this cell, and yeah, as you can see, you have only America, Canada, United States, country, and Mexico and others. We can compare with the original list that we got from Sense2Vec. So from Sense2Vec algorithm, we got all these words as distractors, USA dot, US, US dot, US, things like this, U dot, S dot, A. Now we applied Levenshtein distance algorithm as well as edits function that we created, and we obtained these things. So here we have seen quickly how we can filter our distractors from the Sense2Vec algorithm to make them more relevant. Of course, one of the things to note is that again USA and United States and America, all of these things mean the same, so they are not very good distractors, but at least we have filtered the ones that are very obvious and obtained these things. Now you can refer to any other knowledge graphs to even further filter these things, but those things are beyond the scope of our current discussion. And in this lecture we have quickly seen how we can filter our distractors and make them more relevant. Thanks for watching.